Okay, in this video I'm going to just continue working on this character. I'm going to animate it, and basically to show how to draw things in isometric proportions, isometric ratios, things like that. Just continuing on from the previous video. But to do that, I need to kind of make sure this is on its own layer. Get rid of all these extra pixels, I guess. I could leave that there to kind of just show like the center position on the floor, I guess. Maybe cut that out just to kind of leave that there. Okay, so drawing the character standing straight is pretty simple. You just kind of like translate the position across the center axis and basically just mirror it. So, okay, what to do? I guess just add another frame. Okay, so one arm's gonna come forward, one arm's gonna go back, one leg's gonna come forward, and the other leg's gonna go back. So when you think about those motions, they basically travel, straight, relatively straight speaking. Parallel with the line that he's walking on. So if you think about the line that he's walking on, it's going to be relatively straight down through the center axis of the character. So like you have this line, instead of the lines going across the other way as we were measuring before, basically we'll be measuring in the other direction. So we have the lines parallel to the line that he's walking, and because he's swinging his arms forward and back in the direction that he's facing, right? So just going to put this on its own layer, and I might as well just use this as kind of something that we can move around and like compare where things are positioned instead of having to redraw it all the time. So I'll just use this as kind of like a measuring stick that we can grab and drag around. So like we can like put it there if we know the position of the hand. Or the shoulder, like where the arm's swinging from, would probably be a better choice. And you don't necessarily have to like draw this line. I'm just using it to kind of convey to you like what you should be thinking about when you're drawing. Just you have to have in mind some of the things that I'm mentioning. so that you can kind of gauge like what the best way to draw something is, or where to position something might be, because it might be different depending on like what you're doing, what you're drawing, things like that. So we have that. We can create another layer. I'm going to hide his body, and if you go, where is it? There. So this is that. I have to make sure this is all on the same thing. Okay, so there we go. Position that over his shoulder. Kind of take a mental image of like where his arm and hands are located on the first frame. And some programs allow you to kind of use onion scanning, so you can see where the previous frame is. I think there's a way to do that on here. But I forget how to do it. Anyways. Actually, I can just do this. So, yeah. And, so like we have a general, we can see like where his previous arm is, and it's going to be like rotating where his shoulder is. So basically we just kind of move it to the new location that we want it to be. Kind of keeping the same location where the shoulder is. And we kind of want to make sure that it's traveling relative to that pixel ratio, the isometric ratio. So the hand might look shorter, the arm, if he's rotating it back. Because this part, where his bicep and tricep is, it's kind of rotating under, behind his shoulder, I guess you could say. So it'll look as if it's getting shorter, but it's actually just becoming more hidden behind the upper part of his arm. And there's his hand. I probably won't be able to animate the whole thing in this video. This will probably take too long. But we'll see how it goes. So we have that one arm basically. It's moving back. We have the other arm over here. Basically keep the same shoulder. You know, sometimes your shoulders swing a little bit. And okay, so his right arm's going back, so his left arm should go forward a bit. his left arm already is kind of forward, so sometimes when you're walking, you kind of bring your arm across. Like it doesn't go straight forward unless you're a robot. Usually it's like you're swinging and like the momentum like causes you to kind of like rotate and stuff like that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be like completely like robotic and stuff, like because isometric art's generally kind of, you know, stiff looking and rigid, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's just that, you know, people that are kind of, you know, obsessing over the isometric ratio, they'll kind of get boxed into that kind of thinking and like measuring everything, so that everything then becomes all very, you know, straight and stiff looking. And I don't really want to kind of emphasize that, because I think it like is more of a detriment if you're trying to kind of accurately portray like forms and figures and things like that. So it's better to be able to kind of adapt and stuff like that. So yeah, anyways, continuing on, we have his arm and it's kind of like rotating and kind of getting crossed over his body a little bit in front of him, and that's fine. So yeah, so we could already see, like, if we flip back and forward, it looks as if like one arm's coming forward, the other arm's going back, and it's kind of rotating a little bit, and that's just with one frame. So you know, that gives a good example of like how to do a frame like this. So anyways, I guess I'll just continue on with the arms, animating the arms. I don't know how far I'll be able to get. So the next frame, just be able to actually just add another frame. Actually leave this one, but it'll be alright. So in this one, shoulders stays relatively the same position. His arm will kind of come more across his body. Not too much. Just enough to kind of give the impression that things are moving in the way that you want it to move. I think that doesn't look quite right to me, so I'm going to adjust it. Maybe it shouldn't go that far. And if you think about it, if it's rotating across the body, we're looking down towards it at that angle. It might be better just kind of keep it relatively the same position and just like shorten it a little bit, because it's probably like traveling towards where we're looking from, basically. So yeah, elbow forward a bit, I think. Yeah. Maybe the shoulder could kind of come forward a little bit, just kind of show that he's kind of rotating his body like that. Yeah, that looks good. And I'm just doing it kind of rough because I want to get the motion correct before I start refining things. Because if you start refining things too soon, you might get stuck using a position that doesn't really look as good as it could look. So this other shoulder I'm going to make kind of move a little bit back. Make the arm kind of go back a bit. Maybe shorten it a little bit because you don't want it to come down, or you don't want it to go to the side. Like, you don't want it to go this way, right? Horizontally, because your mind might think, make it move, you know, to the back, but to the side. But we have to keep in mind isometric ratio. It has to go up a pixel every time it goes left 2 pixels. So yeah, you got to keep that in mind. And kind of, it's hard to kind of measure that in the eye, or in the mind. So like you could, if it helps, you can move this down, kind of like draw it, just so like you can like see like where it goes, like kind of helps. So yeah, let's see. The arm could be lower. And that's because when you rotate things, like his arm was originally rotated forward, and if you're rotating on like an axis, I guess, like over here it kind of looks short, and over here it looks longer because it's there's less foreshortening involved. Like here it looks like very foreshortened, because there's like more perspective going on. But if over here it's like longer because there's less foreshortening, there's less like perspective. It's all like on the same distance from your eye. And so like in this frame there's some foreshortening going on because it's like angled forward a bit, and then when he rotates his arm back and it's like straight down like that, there should be like less foreshortening, so it should look a little bit longer. So yeah, and maybe I should do the same thing for this other frame, kind of adjust that so that it looks slightly longer, but not too long, because he's also moving it back along the isometric ratio, so you have to kind of like move things up a bit when it's moving back along the line that it's traveling. So there's all these different things you got to keep in mind when you're drawing isometric art, and you just kind of balance things out as best as you can to make it look look like what you're trying to convey. So there we have his arms kind of moving back. I think this frame's arm kind of maybe like that. You just gotta like play with it and see what looks good, what doesn't look good. Sometimes you'll just know if it looks alright. Sometimes you won't know if it looks alright. Sometimes it takes someone else looking at it to really, point things out to you. So let's see. We have that. What to do next? I think his arms are like back far enough. I think we'll start like moving them, start reversing the motion. We could just use the previous frame to do that, just to kind of like speed things up a bit. And then this frame, we could just reuse this frame. So it's like moves it back, forward, and then okay. So now he'll like be moving his right arm forward, his left arm back. So we basically do the same thing, just the opposite, I guess. And I guess the opposite isn't the same thing, but you get my point. Anyways, so we add another frame. And then we could also, fade that out a bit. Oh wait, yeah, okay. Okay, so this arm comes forward. It'll just look like this frame, but mirrored across. So it won't look exactly the same because it's from a different angle. So this arm comes forward, it's rotating where the shoulder is and kind of coming across the body a little bit. So I get the general shape down first before I start refining anything. Make sure the elbow kind of rotates, around this point, around where his shoulder rotates from. And might have to be higher because, we gotta think about that isometric ratio, how things get like foreshortened, how things overlap, because now his lower arm is gonna overlapping more of his bicep, though I don't want to do it too much because his arm's kind of more lower across where his waist is, I think. So I think that might be too forward. It like jumps too much, I think. So I'm gonna make this the frame after it. So let's make this less of a jump, because we want a relatively smooth looking motion. So it's like that, comes across. His hands can be further down, just kind of show it the same relative length of arm. It'll probably become a bit shorter because there's a bit of foreshortening. Actually, there might be less foreshortening because it's kind of moving off from pixel ratio to, you know, straightforward, it's actually going across the body more. So, and the camera is kind of coming down at an angle, so it'll probably hit perpendicular, I think. So yeah. Anyways, and then the frame after, kind of probably move the shoulder forward a bit. And I'm just going to add some more frames, smooth that out to continue the animation back and forth. So we have that. That's one arm going, the full motion back and forth. And then, so now the other arm. Other arm's going to be going back, just like in this frame. Yeah, this arm now is on opposite. So it'll kind of, let's move this over there just to, you know, get the pixel ratio. The shoulder probably move back slightly, and then the arm. It's going to be hidden by the body mostly, but it's alright. I don't know if I should draw the full arm. I guess I should, just so you can see what's going on. But normally this part won't be seen because the body's going to be in the way. Is that good? So it moves that much. Okay, yeah. I think his bicep should look a bit shorter. Bicep, tricep area, whatever. And yeah, okay, that's probably, yeah, that's good. Then okay, the next frame. Next frame, it's like way over there. Probably wouldn't even see it. It'll be like hidden by his body, basically. Sure, I'll just roughen his body just so that you can kind of see, or at least his chest area. That way it doesn't look too weird. His chest will probably rotate slightly. There we go. Actually, his arm disappears too quickly, so I'm going to include his arm just slightly. Just a slight little bit of it. Just so that it's not too disconnected looking. Yeah. So that's pretty good. You can kind of see what's going on there. Oh, I should probably do that. Just so that you can kind of see the motion going on. Okay, so almost out of time. I'll continue this in the next video. But as you can see, we got like the general arms moving back and forth. So yeah, that's it. Next video, I'll do the legs or something like that.